Dr. Judy here. Dr. Judy, WTF, what the Freud? And what the Freud are you doing still suffering from a narcissistic relationship? So, two thoughts come to mind. Number one, you're either still in one and you're not able to grow, you're not able to get some sort of a connection going and some sort of a true synergistic relationship going, or you're still trapped in your old childhood wounds and you haven't overcome them. And so you're in your own mind still suffering from narcissistic abuse because everything is a trigger happy moment for you, whether it be a song or a place or a memory or a dream or any kind of flashback or any kind of complex PTSD symptom, which relates to old unprocessed wounds that still live inside of you. If that's what's going on with you, number one, I want to hear from you. This is a call-in show, everyone. So please pick up that phone, 323-524-2599. I know you're out there. I know you're in there in the chat room. And get on the chat room and get on the couch, okay? So today we're going to be talking about why you are still suffering from narcissistic abuse. So either it's still around you and you're in the toxic environment, or your head is toxic and you're still in the toxic thoughts and emotions and the trauma bond of it all. Either way, if you're suffering, you're probably suffering on all kinds of levels. Maybe it is that your body is taking a hit and you just don't feel well. Stressed, anxious, muscle cramps, irritable bowel, inability to sleep, unable to concentrate properly. These are some of the signs of narcissistic abuse. Now, let's just focus on the first one that I talked about. Maybe you are still in a narcissistic relationship. Maybe you're married to a narcissist. Maybe your significant other is a narcissist. Maybe you are working for one, or maybe your own children are narcissistic and really gaslighting you, and you don't have a way to cope with it because, after all, they're your children, and so you're forever bound to them in some way, shape, or form, depending on their age, of course. So, if you are still suffering from narcissistic abuse and you are in a narcissistic relationship, let's look at the secondary gain. Last week, I did a show about what's in it for you to be with a narcissist, and let's re examine that, because if you're still there, there must be something in it for you. And you may be there for the very right reasons. You may be there because you have family together, or you have family and real estate and intricate friendship connections and social connections, and you've created this web of connections built around a person that is actually on some level or many levels tearing you down. So what to do about this? This is not an easy yes or no, leave or stay. This is really about you evaluating your life and understanding what you can and cannot do, and where you're better off and where you're not going to be better off at all, because by staying, you're going to become sicker and weaker, and you're eventually going to lose every sense of yourself. That every shred of yourself is going to be lost in this. So it is not an easy kind of decision to make. So if you are in a narcissistic relationship, let's refer to my mind map and see how this even came to be. So if you look at panel number one, you will see wounds of childhood. If you come from a family that is physically, emotionally, sexually, verbally abusive, if they smother and control you, if your parents lack empathy, it's easier to see that these wounds of childhood influenced who you're being today and the partners and patterns you're picking. Because ultimately, when you come from that egg, so to speak, if you look at panel one, I'm kind of staring at it right now. It looks like an egg with black marks all over it. The black marks represent the shadows of abuse from your past, and the light represents who you could be and how you could manifest the best of your best. And in a toxic environment, it is impossible or very, very difficult to show your light, because you're, after all, having to either shut down or defend or medicate or intoxicate, which is medicate. You have to do something to protect yourself from the environment. And in this pursuit of protection, you can see that it's impossible to grow. So I'm going to skip now to panel number 5 for a minute and show you that out of these wounds of childhood, you develop these isms. Let's call them defense mechanisms. The narcissistic defense is built around a narcissist to protect them from a weak and vulnerable core sense of self, which is either arrested in development, not matured, in other words, is hurting and aching. And so typically narcissists look like they're bigger than life because they have to hide behind that facade or fake self, as they call it. And in order for them to do that, they have to look better. And another trick they use is to make you feel worse. So one way to make them feel better is to make you feel worse. So if you are in this system of toxicity, let's use the haze in the background as another metaphor to represent the toxic environment, the gaslighting, the disconnects, the insults, the cheating, the protective shell that keeps you distanced from each other. These are the kinds of things that create this toxic environment. And if you're in a toxic environment, what are you supposed to do? Do you hide? Do you shut down? Do you confront? Do you divorce? Do you grin and bear it? What the Freud are you supposed to do? So I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you're doing about your toxic environment and why you're still there, and what your ideas are that you're still benefiting by being there, because there's always that secondary gain. So please call in. And if you don't call in, I'll just have to talk to myself, which I don't really enjoy doing. But then again, I'm talking to myself and talking to you guys at the same time. So there is value in that. Okay, so what is narcissism? Narcissism, again, is a defense mechanism that people develop because they need to shut down and protect themselves. Remember, there's this weak, vulnerable inner core that hasn't been properly mirrored and attuned to and nurtured, and in terms of parenting, there hasn't been that unconditional love that makes for the healthy human psyche. Referring back to Dr. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, what does it take to form that healthy human psyche? Well, a lot. It takes a family structure that is predicated on empathy, okay? If your parents lack empathy, then who are you connecting to? Really, an empty shell, okay? So if your parents lack empathy, you are not seen, you are not heard, you are not mirrored, you are not attuned to, and then you come out of this experience having to please them to gain favor, and it's really hard to gain favor with somebody that keeps future faking you, meaning that you have to keep doing their bidding, and then sometimes you don't even get the goodies because the carrot's out there in front, dangling in front of you, and you never really quite get it because they keep moving and moving and moving the carrot forward, making you work harder and harder and harder and exhausting you. So you can see this is a terrible system gone wrong. And if you come from a family like this, then it's easy to see how you can replicate this in a relationship. Why? Because it's familiar and it's familial, and it doesn't seem like anything weird or different because you're used to it. Okay. Um, when we get used to something, we don't even know that there's a problem. I remember when I flew to California, I was about 13 years old, and I got on the plane to come from Montreal, Canada to LA, and sitting on the plane and looking at the city of LA. And I turned to my cousin, who was the person I was flying with, and I said, "What's that?" He goes, "What's what?" I said, "You know, that grayish brown stuff in the air? What the hell is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's smog." I said, "Smog? I don't understand." He goes, "Yeah, that's like air pollution." I go, "Okay." So, oh, I think we have a call, but I'll just finish my point. So for me, that was not normal. For him, that was normal. And thank you for calling in. Hi. What name would you like me to call you by?
Hi, Dr. Judy. You could call me Bobby for tonight on this
How you
topic.
doing? Okay. Nice to hear from you. So what the Freud
Nice
is,
to hear you.
yeah, thank you. And
Yes.
tell me what the Freud is going on that inspired this particular call tonight.
Well, two things actually. I read that the topic was overcoming narcissistic abuse, but then you were mentioning about living with someone or in some way enmeshed with someone that is. So I'm gonna put it. Let's see. Where should we begin? I've been in a relationship with an individual for 11 years,
Okay.
and he does have some narcissistic qualities about him, but
Mhm.
compared to the horror of it, the everything you could name, there's more kindness and goodness there. It never got to. I mean, but it's still not completely perfect. But then nobody else is, and
Okay. Fair enough.
when it came to overcoming, yes, fair enough. And it's been 11 years. I'm 43, and I was. He's actually 16 years older than me. So I mean, it's a relationship. Um, but then overcoming the narcissistic abuse, I've had it with my family, and there's only two left. It's my mother and my sister who live within walking distance of me. And I'm in a city, so literally I could walk anywhere, and it's that close of
Okay.
diameter. So it's almost like they're the living dead. I'll find out maybe from him, who told me that my father died, that, oh, your mother's dead as well, and don't bother coming to the funeral, or nobody,
Mhm.
nobody wants you there. So I do feel very thick-skinned in terms of that. It's been a journey overcoming everything, because I could say it without feeling my blood pressure get raised, without myself being flustered or my voice being raised, and I could look at it as just as a person who overcame something. But then, like I said, I do live with someone, but they really have a lot of good qualities than anything. It's been a tough year. I had two surgeries, and they've been by my side the whole time.
Mhm.
And
Sorry.
it's 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 a lot. So you tell me where, if I misread the topic, which is overcoming it, because in a
So
lot of ways I believe
is
I have overcome it.
so why? So the topic is, why are you still in a narcissistically abusive relationship? Why are you still in it? So is it that you're still in it in your head? Is it still in it because you are still surrounded by a narcissist? Is it a combination of the two? So we're examining, like, why, what's in it for you? Last time I talked about the benefits. Some people benefit because they live in a beautiful home, or they have family together, they own property together, they have this amazing circle
Oh,
of friends together. Okay, so it's not that simple. There are secondary gain benefits to this. But
and,
then,
and, and there could also be. financial entanglement as well as a history of doing things. We were actually supposed to be engaged to be married, but that never really happened. And I
Why?
don't really,
Why?
I'm not, it didn't happen because of financial reasons. And I also, his family kind of, it's, there's a lot of discord with his family. I was never even introduced as the partner. It was kind of like I was brought in as Bobby, and
You mean
well, they know. Yeah, I never really had a label as the partner as anything. So now I'm kind of on the outs with his family, and
mhm.
it is it's more of like a friendship type, to be honest. And it's and also, I mean, if I could just say this, it, it's hard to pack up and go. I mean, it's nice to live with someone that is at least a friendship, and it's not, you know, a nightmare. And it's nice to have my own space. It's nice to have my own dog, and there's it's not really horrible. And I also know how to deal with narcissism in terms of it. I feel it coming up in any way. I know how to control myself, and but I'm still, it's 11 years, so there is a long history.
so I
I
have a
mean,
question for you,
I'm
Bobby. I have
33.
a question. So till this day, you have not been introduced to his family,
Oh no, I have been introduced to his family.
but as a
I
significant
did meet.
other.
Not now. It was just they already know. He would wear the diamond ring, and then I would wear the diamond ring. But I'm like, give me a break. And then I became more of the rebellious one because I would speak, and it would kind of irritate me. And then I kind of didn't like the way that the family would insinuate things upon me without, because I never had a label. They would kind of look to see hey,
So, okay, so let's look at all the aspects of, okay, so do you feel that in the relationship you're in a narcissistically abusive one? Do you feel that way?
I would say there's traits of narcissism, but I wouldn't say it's abusive because I could be sharp-tongued as well, and there's no physical um, or even emotional. It could just be the frustrations of life. Uh, my
Here,
my
here's
dog
the
is
key.
always my
Here's,
son, and
okay, so here's the key question. Is one plus one,
okay.
okay, so here's the way that I look at it through this lens. Is one plus one greater than just being alone?
Well, I mean, at times it's really nice, but we don't spend, certain we're not spending Thanksgiving together. He's going on a cruise with his brother, and I'll be home with my dog, and I'll probably be starting a new career. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of it's not traditional in any way.
So I understand that, but loneliness is a really big problem, and we're not meant to be alone, and it's painful to be alone. So, there comes a point at which there's benefit to it because there's some level of comfort or commitment or shared life together and having each other's back, and that's a beautiful thing. And then there is a point at which people are just suffering because they're stuck in this system and they're always on their guard, or they're being triggered constantly, and they're in this trap, so to speak, and they're hurting. Would you?
I
It
think
doesn't sound like
I,
it to you.
I have been triggered at times, many times that did kind of derail my complete bloom or growth because I'm still growing. I'm switching a career that I thought I would retire in
Okay.
because of getting injured, having to sue the company that it was work related, and now I have to. I thought I would retire there, even though I've been there for 4 years. So he was there and through a lot, but it's not completely horrible. And there is a lot of nice aspects, but yes, there are certain moments when I do feel triggered,
So
and
okay, we're all that's kind of in the ballpark of, everybody's trigger. There's no such thing as a trigger-free relationship because there are just too many aspects to a relationship that don't always spell smooth sailing all the way. However, let's compare and contrast your current relationship to your family, because I'm confident through your growth that you would not put up with the same level of abuse that you had to tolerate with your family. So, comparatively speaking, are
that's
you? Yeah, go ahead.
you're absolutely correct, and that's where it's at. If it was anything like that, it would be total no contact. Because I was saying he did tell me that my father died. He
Mm-hmm.
was the friend who told me that my father died, and he, he went to my dad's funeral when I wasn't invited because he worked he he was there when my father was alive and healthy, and my family, he saw things, but he saw it from his own angle, and
Mm-hmm.
whatever he heard was either from me or the third person or someone else. But I would
Wait,
never tolerate that. But
your significant other was at your father's funeral?
he was
How did you feel about that?
uh backstabbed and betrayed, and I had my cousin said that you could do so much better, and I was like, okay, but now what? It is what it is at this point.
Look, there's so many factors to consider, right? There's the practical things like the living situation and how much you help each other, your health, and how much you have each other's back when you're not feeling well, shared pets, shared children, and so on and so forth. It's just that when I listen to your situation with your significant other, clearly there are problems there. However, it seems like in a big picture way, it's good enough. It's good
You know
enough.
what? In a way, kind of like I don't want to say a protector, but he does have my back when no one else does,
Okay, that's
and
good.
and and in a way that if he went to see my father, he went to do it from his relationship and being pretty very very old school Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh well, certain things you get over, but then you realize, well, certain things you don't, and we have to agree to disagree and not go further. And now that I'm still going through with life, I'm aware of narcissism. It's nothing. I still, I'm reminded that my sister and my mother is in walking distance, and my mother doesn't want nothing to do with me.
So that
And
brings
I'm like,
me to question part two. Okay, so in terms of your
yeah,
life with your partner, with your significant other, it seems like it's got enough light in it to hold you. Now, what about in your head? Do you feel that you're still trapped in this narcissistic double dungeon of darkness, as I like to refer to it, where you're still angsting over
well,
your past?
I, I'm not angsting over it at all. It's almost as if I've embraced the fact that it's been a heavy burden this whole year, through a couple surgeries and through going through this, with my partner, to
Mhm.
take and then with my dog, and there's been so much light and love that I've embraced kind of um having a mother that is just blood related, that's living dead. Whenever she dies, it's going to be, I'll probably hear about it through him. And it has been a lot of light, and it's also um, it, it is what it is, and I
Well,
feel like
you know,
40 years.
yeah, I just wanted to say that you've done a lot of work. So, in terms of your head and the head space
You
that
know,
you're in, it doesn't sound like you're suffering from wounds of the past because you've worked very, very hard to deal with them. And that's why you were able to um, uh, uh, up the level of a better place for yourself with your current situation. You're in a much better place in your current situation than you were with your family of origin. And that's really clear. And part of that is because when we grow, and I want everybody to really get this, is that when we grow, number one, the things that we used to tolerate, we don't tolerate anymore. And so that's why whenever I work with a couple, I always suggest that they work on their own individual issues while they're doing couples therapy, because if they're both not growing, one will usually outgrow the other, and the intolerance will grow, and eventually the connection will snap, and there will be no light left in the relationship. So you see, there's an upside to growing because everybody wants to grow and manifest again their light, the best of their best, as Maslow says, the self-actualized version of who we are. But yet, if we're in an environment of toxicity, that which was tolerable or is tolerable is going to get less and less tolerable, and it'll be more and more obnoxious and exposed, and things won't fly anymore. A lot of the work that I do is identifying people's negative core beliefs, and once they source their negative core beliefs, they're not as trigger happy about them. And so when they're with people who want to push that lever of you're not good enough, or you're not lovable, or you're not special, the lever just doesn't go off, and it's not fun anymore to even be in an environment where you're with somebody that's trying to instigate or trigger. It's just like, nah, this is not
You're,
fun. New game of life.
yeah, exactly, and that's where I'm at. That I'm very. It's hard to trigger me because I'm kind of just observing it and then taking it in, and
Yes.
before I even let it go in any further, I'm like, okay, no, it's not even worth me having to say anything. You could just get up and walk away, or say, you know what, I
Yeah.
think I have to go. Okay, and just quit it. Block, delete, whatever. But
And that's what
you're
I
you're very, you're very accurate with how you're reading everything. I have to say you're 100% accurate. That there is a lot more light than darkness, and uh, you mentioned about um, the funeral. At the time, I was emotional about everything because I didn't believe it, and I went through all of the stages, the 5 stages that is up there. But I, I did feel like, you know what, as a mature and adult, he could do whatever he wants, and I don't need to control it. So I saw all aspects of it. I wasn't like, how dare you go? I didn't even say anything. I just was like, you're a grown up. You could do what you want.
uh-huh.
You know. So
Well, I
so yeah.
have to say again, because I know you for a long time, and
Yes.
we've had discussions.
And
I'm
you can,
really, really impressed with how far you've come. And, Bobby, nothing's perfect, but, you have much improved your life, your tolerance uh, for people who pain you has gone way down. You walk away, you're not engaging. And that's what I want everybody to understand, is that once you start to grow, your tolerance level for pain and abuse in the form of gaslighting or whatever form it comes in, it's just not going to fly anymore. And I just want to tell everyone that if you haven't yet downloaded the copy of my book, Be the Cause: Healing Human Disconnect, please do, because it's all explained in there. And if you want to get the hard copy, go to Amazon.com and just put in the title, and you can get a hard copy of it. But everyone who's listening
I
to the show needs to read it so that they're not in the dark.
I do have one question for you.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have a question for you regarding overcoming narcissistic abuse, and psychologically and it, consciously, and I believe subconsciously, I have overcame it. Less trigger happy, but the question is, what's your take on energy nightmares? Like you're remembering the feeling of the event as your body's in danger, but the characters that were there aren't. So
Okay,
it's
so
almost like you
you're
still
saying
have
that, that
PTSD.
okay, so are you saying that you're remembering the feeling of danger in your body?
Yes, and it's not remembering you're feeling it when you're asleep, and then you wake up, and then it's like it's almost like that jolt is still in you
Yeah,
of
it's
feeling
complex.
unsafe. Do you?
Right. So that's the trauma, okay? The still, we're imperfect human beings. We carry these traumas and over time and safety. And I'm not only talking about safety of the environment, I'm talking about safety in protecting yourself because sure, we can run to people who make us feel safe, but if we don't know how to vet people, if we don't know how to choose people in our lives, if we don't know how to properly put up those semi-permeable membranes to keep out the bad and let in the good, then we're not safe unto ourselves. So the question of how do we overcome these things is to bust the system gone wrong, and on a conscious level understand that you need to have your own back and you've got to provide the kind of safety, and then eventually uh, the body will start calming down, calming down.
Okay, so
Okay?
even if it comes in the form of nightmares, that could be a sign that maybe you need a timeout because, like I said, this is a lot of extremes happened, like a different job, got two surgeries, and then
Yeah.
uh, now finding a new way in the sun, which is a, a lot on both of our shoulders. Thank God for the dog, my sweetheart,
There's a
who
book that
puts a smile on my face.
there's a book that I refer to by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, called "The Body Keeps the Score." And again, we're complicated creatures, and the body does keep the score. And then when you're poked and invaded, whether it be surgery or something that you're going through, it's going to call
Mm.
up the unsafe environment and the unsafety of life itself. Because there's no such thing as a safe life if you really think about it. We do the best that we can, but we're all vulnerable. So I want to pick it up
Sure.
here with possibly another caller, but I know you keep in touch and always love to hear.
And I want to say, I first of all, I want to say on my journey to healing myself from narcissism, you have been, you in the mind map, as well as my dog, has been what got me over the rainbow. And thank you. And you are 100% accurate. And there's a lot of light there. But with the poking and the prodding, you're right. I mean, you're so accurate. So on that note, we will speak again. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you, Bobby. You too. And give a big hug and kiss to your dog because I'm
Yes,
we're
the
mutual
love of my
dog lovers.
life. And your dog. Okay, love you. Bye bye.
I love you too. Bye. Yeah, you were so complicated, and we have another caller. So please tell me what name I should call you by. And thank you for calling in. Hello.
Uh, hello. Am I on now?
Yeah. Hi. How you doing?
Oh, okay. Hi.
Yeah.
Fine. Um, I was wondering. I just got back from a trip with my family, and I'm so concerned about my brother's married to a narcissist. And a statement you made earlier in the program really just hit me in the gut about how, and it happened to my father. who was married to my mother, a narcissist also. Uh, so, and he became like an empty shell of a man. It didn't assert himself and
Mm,
weaker. And that's what's happening to my brother also.
okay.
And, I mean, she's like a mag truck, you know, I mean, she's like an alligator. And he doesn't speak up. He has a low voice now. He just
This
doesn't
is
seem
a
happy. He's not spiritual.
very, very tricky situation because what are you going to do? Go and shake him and say, hey, you're in a toxic situation. Let's get you some help. That people don't really like to rock the boat because rocking the boat is saying, oh God, now I have to undo everything. I have to undo the marriage. I've got to undo the finances. What do we, it's just a heavy, heavy thing to dismantle.
Right.
Right? It's very, very heavy. And people like their comfort zone, even if it's uncomfortable, even if they're paying a high price. uh, I talk to many, many people who divorce narcissists, and it is horrible. Okay, beyond horrible. Divorcing a narcissist is one of the most radical emotional experiences because, especially when there are children involved, and especially when there's a long-term marriage and there's money involved, because once you hurt their feelings on that level, especially if you're leaving them, you become the devil. And so it's fair game to attack you and rob you blind of your money and send the kids after you. So can you see why your brother might not want to face that challenge?
Yes, certainly.
Yes. Right? Okay. And then here's the ugly part. Now she's weakened him. Okay. So when he had fight in him, maybe he could have done it, but now he's weak. He's tired. He's a victim of it. He can't get the ball rolling. Even if he did, she would probably convince him that he's crazy and that he's unjustifiably critical of the situation. And if she's good at what she does, which it seems like she is, because what did you call her, the alligator? She puts her
Yes.
right, she snaps down on him, and then that's it. Okay. So one of the aspects of narcissism is that they are like human vampires, and they bleed other people out, and it's usually the sweet, innocent, empathic, people pleasing individuals that are the ones that get caught in this because to them, giving and sharing and caring, those are normal things. And they think, well, if I do that, then the other person will be right back at me. They'll be caring and sharing and loving and kind. But you know what I call that? Besides being an idiot, right? As I call it, positive projection. And positive projection is giving people the credit that they didn't earn. And that's what
Oh.
empathic people usually do. They assume things. They assume that, well, I'm a nice person. I wouldn't rob you blind. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't this, I wouldn't that. But just because you wouldn't, it doesn't mean that the other person wouldn't. So why give them that credit until they've earned it? Understood?
Yes.
So what do you
Yes, that's what I've done always.
what have you done?
I've always projected onto other people that they'd be as nice and come into a relationship with as good an attitude and with,
Mm-hmm.
as I have.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying project on them that they're horrible people to begin with, but what I like to do, because I've done that myself, I project on others that they're not going to hurt me, that, if I leave my purse at a restaurant and I leave it on the chair, they wouldn't rob me because I wouldn't rob them. So they're like me, they're going to be ethical and nice. Well, that doesn't always work, does it? So now I've learned to park myself in neutral. Okay, so I don't give credit where credit isn't due, and I don't necessarily negatize people either. So it's sort of like meet them on neutral ground. Hey, how you doing? So tell me about you. And then over time and space and incidents, you find out what kind of people they are. Are they there for you? Are they ethical? Do they keep their word? Do they play fairly with you? Do they acknowledge and support your wins in life? Are they jealous and knock you down if you get too high? You get, like kick back and observe and see what they do. Okay? And then you'll know more. But
Well,
don't.
thank you very much for that. That's very helpful. I wish somebody had told me that many, many, many years ago.
Yeah, listen, and I learned, and one of the reasons that I can teach is because I try to make things that are my lessons, life lessons for not only myself but other people. So sometimes you have to thank your own naivete because they can become gifts for yourself and other people. So anything that you have experienced in life that you've learned from, instead of kicking yourself in the butt about, well, then just say, wow, I've learned that and now I could pay it forward, because healthy people enjoy making other people better than who they are. Unhealthy people enjoy ripping people down, devaluing, demeaning, destroying, and discard. They love it because it makes them feel better. Okay?
Oh, but you know what? That I could probably use that very line that you just said right now around my brother, and
Right?
maybe and then maybe he could just stand up to his wife more, and and so he can just walk away from the relationship, or not just take her gaslighting and slamming down and all that.
And you helped me remember how important it is to have an enlightened witness. So it's hard to bust the system for him, but you can stand by his side so that when he is in pain, he might turn to you and say, wow, am I crazy, or am I being made crazy? And then you can stand there and say, well, let's look at this together. You did this and said this, and in response, she said this and that and that and that. What do you think? So by doing that, you're acting like an enlightened witness. So he can't go back to the gaslighting in his own head and say, yeah, I know I'm crazy. She's right. I'm wrong. So that's something you can do for him. Is just simply be there, have his back. And when he starts complaining about it, um, give your objective observer stance on the situation. Only if he asks for it, and only
He
if you.
won't ask for it, though, because he's unaware of it. Because, see, he grew up adoring my mother, who was the narcissist, and
Okay.
so he kind of gave up a little bit about who he was to begin with, and then he meets a woman that's similar and marries her and thinks that's just normal.
Well,
But it's just, you know.
that's why I call this show Dr. Judy WTF. It's a tribute to the repetitive cycle that we get into when we're blueprinted that way. Okay, so that's what you're talking about, is that your brother's been blueprinted this way. And so for him it's normal,
Right.
and he won't launch out of this system gone wrong. So what other ideas do you have? Anything else that you think that you could do for him to make his life better, sweeter, more evolved?
Uh, just I don't know, maybe encourage him when he does say something, or you know, encourage him to be like his more youthful self. Oh, you're always so funny, or you're always right on, or I love how you think, or you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. And also, there's so much information out there on the internet, including this YouTube channel. So do you think he would be open to reading the Be the Cause book, or listening to YouTube and psychoeducating himself on narcissism. Do you see that for him?
Well, I've certainly always thought about that type of thing too. See, the ironic thing, though, in our family is I turned out to be sort of, in all of the 9 kids of our family, that like there's something wrong with me because I'm the one that has been a seeker of, crazy psychology. It's like I'm the only one that can see in our family that our family isn't perfect. I mean, even though, we've got a hoarder over here, we got obesity over there, we got an estranged brother that hasn't been home for 8 years, depression over there, a suicide attempt over there, and then, but you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's like
you're
it's a
describing
hard nut to crack in my family for some reason, even though we got a lawyer and an MBA and, lots and lots of college,
yeah.
but no insight to this whatsoever.
So it's not
But
enough to be intellectually smart. We have to be developing our emotional EQ. And that's what digging deep into our childhood wounds allows us to do, is identify the problem, identify the patterns, identify the defense mechanisms, start to grow again because you're not under the shadows of the past when you do your work. And for those of you who don't know, I finally finished my video titled Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And I'm just so thrilled with it. It's everything that I wanted. I had attempted to produce this video in the past and I wasn't happy with it. I had to basically throw it in the garbage can, but this one I love. So everyone, could you please reach out to me? I so am passionate about helping people heal from narcissistic abuse. And just call me and reach out for your personalized healing from narcissistic abuse plan. And we'll put it together respectfully around your budget and your time and how you're best going to learn this information. But don't not learn it. Don't not learn it, because it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you your emotions. It's going to even cost you finances, because if you're not well, you're going to be running to the doctor and the chiropractor and the acupuncturist, and you're going to be paying by overeating or overspending or filling the hole in your soul with drug, sex, rock and roll. So either way, it's not a free ride to close your eyes to this. And so for those of you who are smart and know that you're educated, there's another kind of smarts, and it's called psychoeducation, EQ. So let me help you get the EQ that's going to help you have a better game of life. And you sound like a really lovely sister. What you can't be, obviously, is intrusive. But what you can do is be there for him. And when he starts complaining, you can validate his reality. And that's really big, because when you don't validate other people's reality, they're gaslit and they think they're crazy. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. And I am going to check out more about what you were talking about, your video. So
yeah,
that would be great.
You can write me, Dr. Judy, psychologicalhealingcenter.com. That phone number up there is the phone number for the studio, so don't try to call me there. But I will give out the number of the clinic, which is, everybody write this down, 310-739-4491. I'll say it again, 310-739-4491. And I will put together your plan for healing from narcissistic abuse, which will include my brand new video, which I think is just so beautiful to follow. It's easy on the eye. It makes the points really, really clear. And of course, it connects the dots. So thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for calling in. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome.
Right, good night.
Good night. So if you're still in a narcissistically abusive relationship, you don't have to be. And if you're in one and it's just too hard on you to get out because you've got children and so on, at least get psychoeducated so that you're not um, you're not beating up on yourself and feeling like you're going to be so penetrable to all of the toxicity that it'll drain out every ounce of yourself that you have. So we must preserve you, okay? So any other questions in the chat room? Any other thoughts?
No other questions, but somebody said, I appreciate Dr. Judy and all the callers tonight. So
very, very welcome. I always enjoy doing this. And do you know that it's been 10 years that I've been doing this show? Okay, so I'm going to have to figure out of it. So one of the things that I'm going to do, I'm running on the fly. My old video, Healing, the 9-panel mind map video series, Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. Call me on that one. And whatever it is that you can afford to pay for that. Now, don't take advantage of it, because if you really can afford it, it's not all that much money. I think it's up there for $149. If you can't afford it, call me and I'll make arrangements to get that to you. And of course, if you can afford it, it's worth the buy because it's really breaking down the system. And those of you who are specifically suffering from narcissistic abuse, call me about this new video and the plan that I will personalize for you so that you can heal from narcissistic abuse. So thank you everyone for listening in, and I'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.